Hello everyone, welcome to this new memoQ webinar. I am Damien from memoQ's marketing team and I will be the host of this webinar. Our presenters today are Veronica Pendy and Zsolt Varga, product owners at memoQ. In this session, we will take you through all the new features of the latest memoQ release, memoQ 9.1. This webinar is being recorded and you will be able to find it on our YouTube channel in a few days. The session will last approximately 30 minutes, with 10 more minutes at the end for questions and answers. If you have any questions during this session, please write them down in the questions and answers panel. Now, I would like to hand over to Zsolt and Veronica to start this session. Thank you.
Hello and welcome everybody. So today it's the two product owners proudly presenting our latest version. And let me start with sharing my screen. So first I'm going to talk to you about the PDF preview tool, and then Zsolt is going to talk about the Antidote integration and the new machine translation plugin that was released with 9.1 a week ago. So first, a little bit theoretical introduction on how previews work in general.
Sorry to interrupt you. I still can't see your screen. I don't know if it's normal.
You can't?
No.
Oh, I haven't clicked on share. Okay.
That's why. Now I can see it. Thank you.
Okay. It wasn't, you haven't just missed much. So a little bit of background on how previews work in general in memoQ at least. Go on. Nice little presentation. Okay. So in general, what happens is that you have a formatted document, which goes into some magic machine, a magic application. And that magic application separates it into the pure text, the pure translatable text, and the formatting parts. Images, sizes, colors, whatnot. And then what you get in memoQ is something I think most of you have seen a lot of times. In the top, in the translation grid, you have the text with some tiny little bit of formatting. And in the bottom, in the preview panel, you have a kind of sort of similar thing that you had in the beginning. Now, I don't know if you know, but this bottom part is HTML. So please notice that for this, we needed the magic thingy that could understand this document, that knew what each thing means in it, how images are stored, how font color is set, etc. And this magic thing was what got these two things separate for us. And once these are separate, we can make a real, true live preview, because HTML is kind of, it's very flexible. So when you have recreated this formatting in HTML, you can replace the text that goes here with whatever went into the translation. So this is why in the preview, in a pane in memoQ, you can see the translation once it was added. But here's the crux of the matter, the magic machine. The magic machine is sometimes another application, or something similar to that, another library. So this is how we create these things with Office documents. There is a library that is capable of understanding Office documents and separating them into the text part and an HTML skeleton. May I use that word? And there are some other magic machines that we can use for some formats. For HTML, for example, you don't really need the magic machine because HTML is kind of transparent. And whatever is in there, you can also see it visually and also represent it visually in an HTML format. And sometimes we ourselves create this HTML, but that is a completely different question what we do with multilingual previews, because that's something very different. But sometimes and also I suppose you must have noticed that this preview is often not perfect. Sometimes what you see in here is not the actual text, but some IDs with hash marks and stuff like that, especially with more complicated and more visual formats like PowerPoint. Even though it's Microsoft Office, it's still not perfect. With Microsoft Visio, for example, the magic machine that we are using absolutely cannot generate an HTML version. This is why we don't have a preview in the new Visio filter. So in these cases, it also happens that you do have the text, the translatable text, in a more or less, but maybe absolutely not formatted way. And you also have the formatted thing in PDF, which is pretty much the default. Format nowadays for whenever you have visual things and don't want it to change. But you don't have the magic machine, either because you just don't have the software, because it's freaking expensive, or maybe even the person who sent these documents to you don't have it. Maybe it's a long chain in a publishing process, and the person who's actually sending you the things should have to ask someone who would have to ask someone who would have to ask someone to get kind of a connected thing, and then it would still be InDesign, and you still don't have InDesign. So we are back to step one. But you have it, it's there. So what PDF Preview tool does is, it simply opens the formatted PDF in another, not that very magic machine, which is the PDF Preview tool. It's a PDF viewer that we made a little smarter and made it able to talk to memoQ. And what it does is that for every segment that you click on in memoQ, it tries to find its counterpart in the PDF file. Most of the time it does, sometimes it doesn't. Let me just quickly show you how it works, and then I'm gonna tell you what my thoughts are on it, why it is cool. Yeah. Where's my memoQ? My memoQ has been lost. Where is it? Oh my goodness. What? Okay, so this is how PDF Preview works. And I swear I had memoQ open and it's gone now. Anyways, then let me talk to you about how it. Yeah, so right now, this is the PDF Preview tool. As you see, it's very simple. There are only a couple of visual controls on it. And it really doesn't do a lot now. It's really strange what happened to memoQ. It was lost between the two monitors that I'm using at the moment. Okay, so what I did was I asked our documentation person, Gergő Garai, for a guide, which at the moment, they are writing it in HTML. So as you can see, this was an HTML format. Well, actually, they are writing it with the software that has an HTML export. So I asked for the HTML export. And I also asked for the guide in PDF, which he has. It is open, honey. Hello. Okay, the demo effect. I tried this like 10 times before the webinar, and it worked. Okay, so this here, which can be made to be kept on top, is the PDF preview tool. It's just opened the guide in PDF. And when I click here in the translation, it just jumps there in the preview. So I can see the context, which is, I think, even in this case, it is fairly useful, because if you only do the translation, then what you see is we'll display the following error message, and you see that there is an image, but you don't see the image. Even if you have the preview turned on, you don't see the image. Here in the PDF, you do see the image. So you know what you're talking about when you go on and translate the following sentences. And in some cases, it is even more useful. There was another thing that I prepared for you. I downloaded a guide for a watch. And I basically copy-pasted it over to a text file, so that it is not, doesn't have any formatting in it. And as I'm not sure if you can see it, but here you see the red frame around the place where the PDF preview tool found the text that you are translating. And this is very complicated and has this time system indicator is, for example, at the end of a line near the watch. And you also see that it is not perfect. Segmentation was not perfect. Nothing is perfect, but still you can get the context. And just a few more words about where I think this is useful. I already mentioned InDesign or FrameMaker, so there are the very cheap and very professional desktop publishing tools where the exported versions, IDML and MIF, we can happily import, but we cannot create the visual preview from it. But your clients may very well have it. And actually, all this thing also works if the chain between the translatable text that you got and the PDF are very, very far from each other. So if it was a book at a publishing company and you get the original manuscript that was created by the author, and at the publishing company, they had 8 steps of preparing the final book, and you also get the book in PDF, you can still get around the place where the text that you're actually working on is. If there were changes because it was edited and then proofread and then edited again, then those parts won't be found, but you still get the rest. And it also can happen that you are translating the PDF itself, because it also happens. You can still do the trick of exporting just the text from the PDF. Not really. If you are not supposed to recreate the design yourself, just the text, then you can go on and work with the text in memoQ and still take a look at the image and the visual and the location and the context in the PDF. So this was the PDF preview tool, ladies and gentlemen. More to come. We are planning on expanding it a little bit, but as for which way and what time really depends on your feedback. Thank you very much. And now, may I give the floor over to Zsolt.
Okay, thank you, Veve. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Now, let's see. I just need to share my screen with you guys. Let's see, share. Yes. And I will share my full screen with you. And you should be looking at the machine translation presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
We can see it.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'll be talking about two things today. One is machine translation in general, and more specifically, the Intento MT plugin that we are introducing in 9.1. And the second big thing that I want to talk to you about is the Antidote integration. Before we go to Intento MT plugin, let me just briefly touch on some other things that is included in 9.1 as far as machine translation, which still continues to be a hot topic. So many different possibilities, new trends. So we'll try and keep on top of things, and you'll see that Intento is an integral part in that effort. So aside from Intento, we updated our Mirai Koto Translator MT plugin with some automatic pre- and post-translation processes. For the first time in a while, we actually removed two MT plugins, Moses and Let's MT. And this is because the authors of these MT plugins informed us that they are discontinuing the service or have discontinued it. And so now, as you look at the number of MT services in 9.1, you will actually see that it's reduced by one because we added one new and removed two. Security, by and large, is a hot topic as well, and especially in terms of machine translation, because we are sending data out to the world, to some service provider, and we just want to make sure that all this data is safe as much as possible, and also that your service credentials are safe, especially when you're an LSP and you're using your MT service credentials in online projects. You want to make sure that no unauthorized access to those credentials is provided to anyone aside from those that you want to be able to use it, namely your project managers for the most part. So we increased security in MT services and masked a number of fields and ensured that they are highly encrypted, even more hidden and out of reach than before. It was already secure, but we even made it, the security, we made it tighter. And we also updated our machine translation SDK documentation to make sure that whenever anyone updates their own plugins or create new plugins and ask for those to be published in memoQ, that they are going to use these stricter requirements to make sure that their plugins will be as safe as we planned it to be. Okay, so this is in general about machine translation. Now, something a little bit more specific. Let's see. As far as the Intento public MT plugin, first we need to take a quick look at what we mean by MT plugins. We have two sorts of MT plugins, private and public plugins. Public plugin is simply something that is incorporated into memoQ. So if you install memoQ 9.1, you will see under your resource console and MT settings, you will have the option to connect to Intento's MT services. But actually, Intento has been around for some time. Let me just show you some things here. Right here, and as you will see, Intento actually published in Slater an article where they announced that they created their private plugin for memoQ. That was back in December 2018. So you could actually download it from their specific Google Drive or website and install it under memoQ as a private plugin. But this was not code reviewed. It was their plugin. We did provide some technical help to them. But after a number of months, we saw the potential in Intento, and especially because Intento continues to be, for a number of years, to be on the cutting edge of machine translation. So we decided to move that private plugin into a public plugin status, especially because of the wonderful quarterly reports that they create, and they produce a lot of valuable data on MT quality services, and they continually benchmark various MT services in various language combinations, this one being a really important thing. Intento is now a part of memoQ. It's no longer a private, but it's a public plugin. So it complies with our MT SDK. It looks in compliance with our UI standards, and it behaves the way we prefer MT plugins to behave, and it has security settings that reach our standards. But what is Intento? Well, it's not actually another MT service. As you can see from the screenshot, you have a selection of 25 MT service providers that you can connect to. And some of them are already in memoQ, but some others are not there and may never be there simply because we don't have that many requests from our users to connect to some of these services. Still, if you find any of these MT services valuable to you that are not in memoQ, but they are offered by Intento through the MT plugin in memoQ, then you might want to give it a try. So Intento is basically a gateway to various MT services. And the big thing is that, as you can see here, it has a smart routing option. So if you click on it, then you will not be able to select from among the providers, but you'll be able to actually rely on Intento's experience and benchmarks, and Intento will select the best and most affordable MT service provider for you based on your language settings, namely source and target languages. Just briefly to talk about why we have Intento in memoQ, we have this two-tiered MT plugin strategy, meaning that we are trying to incorporate in memoQ as many of the main MT service providers as we think we should as a leading CAT tool provider, and also whenever we have massive requests for certain MT services from our users, we incorporate them in memoQ. But there are still some other services that are not requested by great masses of memoQ users, but they are offered through Intento. So this is the second tier of our offering through a partner. I already showed you this nice little matrix of data-driven smart routing, but I also want to show you something else. If you sign up on the Intento's website, then you will get to Intento Console, and Intento Console will provide you with a number of valuable data for your MT use. For instance, you can have usage data and see peak times and the number of API calls which are used for billing, obviously. the number of providers that you used, language pairs, and so on. If you had any kind of errors, like we were bug fixing something here, you can see that we had a few errors here, but for the most part, Intento was running error-free. So you can actually keep track of your data usage, but also you keep track of your jobs. As you can see, I used smart routing today. So you can see that through smart routing, I use DeepL API and Amazon, Google Cloud, and so on. So pretty much all you need is just a single API key to obtain from Intento. And once you have it, you have access to all these services. Let me show you how it works in memoQ. I prepared for you a project here that we will be using, translating from English to German. And when you have a project, you can just set up your empty service provider. I selected the Intento new empty settings. I open it for editing. As you can see, we have Intento empty plugin among the empty plugins offerings. So I click here, I type in the API key, and immediately I have a list of providers that I can choose from. You can see that I can actually use my own credentials and my custom empty model to connect to Microsoft Translator API. So in this case, I would actually be paying to Microsoft. But if I just say I don't want to use my own credentials, that I would be paying to Intento, and I can select the empty service provider from the list, whichever I want to. Obviously, the empty service provider needs to support that specific language combination. Or if you don't want to deal with that, you can just click Smart Routing. Everything disappears because Intento will take care of it for you. So then you can just start translating, and we'll see Intento, what Intento will look for as far as the empty services. If we look it up from English to German, Intento will opt for DeepL as the best empty service available. Just a quick word, you obviously are familiar with this on-the-fly translation using these hits from here, the empty service providers hits. But obviously you can also do, let's see, I'm wondering, yeah, I can't really see it from the controls, but let me just do it here. You can obviously run a pre-translate, and you can just, if you run it from here, then you will see that Intento can populate, or memoQ through Intento can populate these segments, pre-translate these using Intento's preferred empty provider. So these are the two basic workflows that we use in memoQ: on-the-fly translation and pre-translation when it comes to machine translation. So this is Intento that I wanted to talk to you about, and just encourage you to give it a try and experiment with it. The second thing I want to talk to you about is Antidote integration. Antidote is a software, a professional toolbox that mostly French and English speaking, but mostly French speaking reviewers and proofreaders use. Originally, Antidote was developed for French speakers, but now it's also available in English. What it does is it integrates with a number of software, including Microsoft Office, and now it integrates with memoQ. It's widely used in French-speaking countries, primarily in Canada. And this is how it looks like. basically you have just a single icon in memoQ, and this icon shows you that you already have Antidote installed on your computer, that the Antidote version supports this integration. The Antidote version that you need is 9.5.3 or later, which is like the last, for the past 4 years. Whenever you bought Antidote, it must be compatible with this Antidote integration requirement. So this icon becomes active when your target language is supported by Antidote, which is English and French right now. And let me just show you real quick how it works. There's continuous synchronization, works with track changes, and even with multiple documents. So let me show you the other project that I prepared for you. Okay. Oops, not that one, sorry. So you need to open, first of all, a project that has a target language supported by Antidote. In this case, it's going to be a Hungarian article. I translated it into English. So now I want Antidote to take a look at it. So I click on it and it tells me that there are some locked segments, and because those segments are locked, Antidote will not be able to modify them, obviously. They are locked for a reason. But as you can see, as soon as I click the icon, I have the full content of the grid appearing on the screen. And what you can do here is you pretty much can use just the Antidote window. And let's see, whenever I find anything like Snapchat, it says unknown proper noun. I can add this, say, as a proper noun, or I can correct it whenever there's any kind of mistake. Let's see, like in this case, it's saying that satirical would be better. So I change it to satirical, and you will see that here, memoQ was immediately corrected. So there's continuous synchronization between Antidote and memoQ. You no longer need to export your text from memoQ, import it into Antidote, run the proofreading and the language, typography, and stylistic review. You can just use this integration, run it in Antidote, and when you're done, you can just simply close the session, close the Antidote corrector, and then you're ready to go. All your changes are in memoQ, and they are good to go. You can just submit it to your LSP or client, whichever way you want to. So I highly recommend everyone to check out Antidote Corrector, because it's more than a simple spell check or grammar check. It's much, much more. It's a professional tool for reviewers and proofreaders. That's all I had to say, so I'm giving back the control to Damien. Thank you all.
Thank you. So I think it's now time to check the questions and start the question and answers session. So I see that from...
I did. I mean, is it okay if I start and then George can check his ones in the meantime?
Sure, yes, thank you.
That's what I was about to propose.
Okay, so there was one question, no, actually two questions regarding repetitions. Sorry. As for repetitions, what I can say is that we have an algorithm that tries to handle the case of repetition and tries to find the proper occurrence of repetition, and sometimes it manages to do so and sometimes it doesn't. We are constantly working on the algorithm. What you can help with sending us sample files, like both versions of, so both the PDF and the source file. And we can take a look at it and also test our algorithms on those. So that was one thing. There is another question saying, do I understand now that we can import a PDF into memoQ and it will be exported into a PDF format already formatted? No. I'm sorry, memoQ is still not a DTP software. Formatting is tough. This is why there are those very expensive software for it. There is an option. The option that is closest to it is through TransPDF, which is not a free service either, because these things are complicated. I suggest you check it out if you're interested in something like that. But no, it is too complex and we are not going to integrate desktop publishing into memoQ. That I can promise you. And there is another thing, if it is included in the latest memoQ version, or it should be paid for, well, neither. It is not included. It you have to download it separately under the download section of the memoQ webpage. There is a Tools and Utilities tab, and among Tools and Utilities you find the PDF preview tool, together with other fancy stuff with it. But you don't have to pay for it. So it's included. Financially, it is included. In practice, it isn't. And there was there something else for me? And I think there wasn't. No, okay. Did you say that we could translate an INDD file and load its corresponding PDF and then navigate in the INDD file in the translate pane and see the correct segment in the PDF file? It is almost exactly what I said. It is the IDML file that we can import. So INDD is the actual format of InDesign files, which we cannot read. What we can read is the export, the exported version of that, which is IDML. INDD files can only be opened by InDesign, as far as I know. Okay, I think, George, it's you now.
Okay, thank you. Question, what options exist for integrating memoQ 9.1 into an Adobe Experience Manager localization workflow? I'm not sure who this was for. I think we actually reviewed some of the options, but I can't really say a definite answer to that. Unless Leva has some answers to that. I know we talked to Adobe, but
yeah, I don't think, I mean, no, at the moment, no options exist for that. Yeah. You can, yeah, it's a big issue.
Okay, Intento MT, is there a way to have a short description of each MT service? They differ. You can get some information.
Is it? Am I the only one who's losing George?
I'm sorry.
It seems that you are cutting.
Okay, so the question was if there's a way to have a short description of the services, each MT service available through Intento. I recommend you can check out Intento's website, but all these MT service providers are big enough so that they are all over the place on the internet. And you will see what languages and what genre or what fields of expertise they are the best at. And if you read Intento's quarterly reports, they also provide you with a lot of insight as to which services to use. Will memoQ offer a similar support for language tool, which is free and support dozens of languages? You know, if you have specific questions or requests, submit them as user or feature requests. And if we receive a certain number of user requests, then we'll investigate and see if we can put it on our roadmap. Obviously, we need to do a serious market research. Does memoQ automatically recognize Antidote when it's updated to memoQ 917? Yes, the whole thing is fully automatic. So all you can see is just an icon, which if you already have Antidote installed, it's there. It's on the ribbon, memoQ's ribbon. And if the version of Antidote satisfies the requirements, then it's going to be active as long as the target language of your project is either French or English. It doesn't matter if it's a local variant or not, English UK or English simple will do. Okay, so yes, it's all automatic. Antidote integration, can we use version 8 of Antidote? No, I said it's 9.5.3 is the earliest version that is supported by the integration, and this is because the current API that the software company authoring Antidote uses is API version 2.0 that goes back to Antidote 9.5.3. So you need to update your Antidote. Okay, how do you integrate Antidote into memoQ? Well, you don't need to do anything. You just need to install Antidote and we'll look it up from the system registry. So just have your own copy of Antidote installed. Do I need to buy Antidote to use it integrated in memoQ, or is it free? No, Antidote, you need to purchase the software and install it on your computer. And once it's there, then you can integrate with it. Okay, and I think that's about it. So thank you guys for the questions.
Yes, so there were a few questions about future features and actual errors or bugs. This is not the place where we can answer them. We either don't know the answer. Most probably we don't know the answer. So if it's a bug-like thing, then please report it at support@memoq.com, and we'll handle them as soon as we can. And the same is true for the features. We are working a lot on figuring out what feature can give the biggest value to the most of our customers. And we are trying to figure that out all the time. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for attending this webinar. And thank you, Veronica and Zsolt, for this presentation. So I think we answered all the questions. So please email us if you have any other questions regarding the release. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, the recording of the live session will be available on our YouTube channel in a few days. So thank you again and see you next time.
Thank you again and have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.